Hey, welcome to another professional recording session without the professional recording studio. So after closing my commercial studio a few years ago, I still have all these bands that are asking me to record their albums. So I want you to come along with me on this deep dive on how I recorded this band's next album in their house in one weekend. Let's check it out. So 100% serious here, no joke. First thing I have to do is hike through the woods in the snow, uphill, to get my gear out of storage. Of course, the sun went down, so I had to make 3 more trips in the dark, hauling speaker cabinets up and down this path. And it was late, but I had to pre-game all the gear, stage it all, and make sure everything worked. Good thing I had a helper. No Prius today. I got the minivan called into action for this one. So fast forward through a couple hours of driving and we're at this farmhouse in the Vermont countryside. Everyone's favorite part of the day, load in. All the stands. This is a fun one to carry. So I came and kind of pre-gamed the site with the band a few weeks ago, and we talked about it. And this is a great space. There's plenty of room, but it's basically a very reflective box with the drywall and everything, pretty much straight drywall. Not a lot of furniture. The least we could do would be to cut down on some of the early reflections. So I talked to Cubby about putting up some moving blankets, and he totally got on that and set it all up for us before we even got here. So I think this is going to put us in really good shape. I feel really confident about the acoustics in here. Just taking these pretty inexpensive moving blankets, they cut down on that mid-high frequency flutter echo. It's really not bad compared to how it was. So we're in good shape. Kind of a 70s Ludwig like reissue or something. Is it vintage or?
Yes, it is actually, but it's not 70s. I think it's from the 90s, I think he said.
That makes sense. I think the 70s had like a pointy badge. They kind of like tweaked the badges a little bit through the years.
No, it sounds so much better than his other set.
Yeah, it's a nice set. Yeah, that's a 6.5-inch Black Beauty, so that's a Desert Island snare drum right there for sure. Nice kit. Really nice kit.
My neighbors were I just jumped across there. They're totally nice. I've had people over here a bunch. They'd never complained, but I went over there yesterday and I said, hey, we're doing this for the weekend, so hope it doesn't bother you. And he goes, oh, if it doesn't bother me. If it does bother me, I'll just take my hearing aid and turn it off. So.
All right, so I guess we got to get my rig set up. I got my nice little nook over there. It's like a little control room practically, my little spot. We've got a snake, so we're going to use that. That's going to carry both all the mics and all the headphones back out to the band. I enlisted cameraman Brian here to help me sort through this crowd.
Having a great time.
So much fun. I started working on setting up the headphones.
It's going to be such an interesting farmhouse aesthetic to this
Oh yeah.
video. I love it.
I got that drum set last year. It's my first drum set in 28 years.
It's a good one, and
Vistalite.
Oh, it is a Vistalite.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know it's an opaque Vistalite.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And an awesome Black Beauty, right?
Yep, just got that like 3 weeks ago.
So I haven't set up any mics or stands or anything. So that's a good time to kind of like check in on the sound of the drum set so you can make some tweaks, and it's a lot easier to get in to work on the drum set. So yeah, I'll check in with the sound. I'll have the drummer just play a little bit. I'll hear it in the room, and I'll just make some real quick tweaks, maybe not, on the kit, and then we'll throw the mics on and go from there. Well, I love it. It sounds really good. Like, I think it's ready to rock.
Rings a little bit. So I don't know if that's too much for you or.
Well, now that I hear it sounds great when you play it with the beat.
Together, yeah. I'm fine with it ringing like that.
Well, I should have brought my moon gels and stuff. I don't know if you have anything like that. We'll just throw a little bit of tape on it. That'll be fine. And that's just like totally my philosophy with like teching and tuning the drums. It's like, we got to get rolling with this project. So let's make some minor adjustments. If you go down the rabbit hole of like perfecting everything, you know, hours and hours, you know, you may never come back and you're going to lose perspective. We've got a lot to do today. Let's get the drums sounding as good as we possibly can and move forward from there. I'm just hearing a little bit of warble on this guy, and I think it could be a little higher. So I'm just looking for a lug that's a little out of whack. Just bring it in as best I can. That did it. Yeah. The floor tom, it sounds good. I like to go a little lower on the floor tom. We'll see if it can handle it. We'll make an adjustment and we'll know where we started at. So if we need to, we can get right back to where we were at in case we make it sound worse. So let's try that. It's gonna knock it down all the way around just a little bit. See if it sounds just a little bit better. Minor adjustments, unless something's really out of whack, then just start from scratch. But like I said, we got a lot to do today, so we don't want to go down a rabbit hole. So if a drum is a little dead like this one is, maybe tweak the bottom head, tune it up a little bit. That's gonna increase the resonance of the sustain. The basic concept is just tune the bottom head at least a little bit higher than the top head to increase that voice of the drum. That's pretty good, and I think it's gonna sound great on the mic. This one is also a little dead, so we'll try the same thing here. It's the smallest drum he's got in the kit, so we can kind of tune that bottom head up even a little more for sure. That's great. I'm not gonna touch that. That's sounding good. You get to a good place, step away, walk away, because you can be here all day. That is sounding really great. I'm just gonna experiment with a little bit of tape because that's gonna get that overtone, that ring out of it. I think I want a little bit more padding on this. Luckily we got a bathroom right over here. Not too proud to throw a little TP on the drum. Left the moon gels at home, but that's fine. This stuff works just as well. I mean, that looks ugly AF, but it's not gonna go anywhere because it's attached to the rim a little bit. Just take it off after the weekend so it doesn't leave any residue, and just kind of flap in there, and as long as it's not going to go anywhere, as long as it's not going to fly off, it's kind of good that it just like, it kind of mutes it and then kind of relaxes so it doesn't completely kill the resonance of the drum. And this is another thing a lot of people forget is just loosen up the snare strainer just like a little bit so you can get a little bit of that action in it. Helps the decay on it. Like I said, we're gonna go from there. There's like a little bit of rattles and stuff like that, but in the context of this music especially, I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. He's got a wood beater here, or maybe it's plastic, but plastic or wood, that is awesome. That's what you want for hard rock, metal, punk. Perfect. I guess one last thing that I noticed, like Chris, my man, thank you. It's got all his cymbals raised up nice and high. That's gonna help with isolating the drum mics from these cymbals, which are gonna be pretty loud. But also he's got just the era of Zildjians that I love, which are these like 80s and 90s Zildjian, a little bit of patina on them. I don't really like vintage 60s Zildjians for rock music because they don't cut through enough. But the kind of brand new Zildjians that you get, like A Customs or whatever, they're so shiny, so glossy, that they're super harsh on, you know, today's mics and digital recording and stuff. This is a sweet spot. I think this kit is gonna sound perfect, especially for what we're doing. So Jason asked like where to set up, and we'll definitely figure that out, but even in my studio where I have everything set up, like kind of like where you walk through and the workflow is like very crucial where we set everything up. So probably be like tweaking it a bit, moving these guys around. Want everyone comfortable, be able to see each other. And then we got to figure out how to isolate the amps and speakers and everything. So we'll figure that all out. So I'm just gonna have these guys sit tight for a minute and we'll figure that all out as we go. All right, so the drums are basically sounding good in the room. So let's start getting some stands and mics on the drums. For these on-site sessions and anything down and dirty, I love these little clip-on mics. These Audix ones are really good. They're just convenient. It's a really good clip-on system. They're on there. It's great. Done and done. Obviously, just make sure they clear the cymbals and the drummer's not going to hit them, hopefully. They don't have to be so close to the head, but a few inches is good. I wouldn't be opposed to a clip-on for this guy. This is a kick drum mic. It's just kind of what I had, and it matches the other Audix mics, so I think they'll sound compatible. I wouldn't be opposed to clipping that on, but I don't have another clip-on, so I'm going to use this stand. I'm a big proponent, if not stickler, for just like kind of finding the right stand for the job. If you're kind of down a little lower like this, get a smaller stand. Be out of the way. People won't walk into it or walk over it. I'm kind of anal about that. I'll be tweaking which stand I'm using for a long time. We're going to do a mono overhead. I have these $40, $50, $60 used Audio-Technica AT2020s. These are solid as a rock and they sound good, really neutral sounding mic. I'm just going to do a mono overhead for this really kind of rock and roll, little gritty, little retro sounding band. It's perfect. We're not looking for this huge three-dimensional modern drum sound. The mono overhead is going to be perfect. Pro tip here, and this may be obvious, but if you got a boom mic stand hanging over a great distance, just align that boom with one of the bottom legs so there'll be no way it can possibly fall forward. Just get your three bottom legs, align that boom with one of the legs. If you have it like this, thing can fall right over like that. But if the boom is right in line with one of those bottom legs, it can't really go anywhere, so you're good. Nice little stand here for the bottom snare mic, and I almost opted to not use a bottom snare mic on this session. Like I said, down and dirty, but we got the inputs, and it'll help a little bit in the final mix. I don't know if I'm unique with my bottom snare mic choice. I just kind of happened upon this AKG 451, got a built-in pad, throw that right on because it's loud. And I don't know, it just kind of has like a little warmer sound than an SM57. The bottom snare mic is a weird thing anyway, so it's just always kind of rattly and springy, but I've had good luck with this pencil condenser type mic. So the one thing to keep in mind on the positioning of this mic is basically just point it away from the kick drum head, because you're going to get a lot of that kick drum sound in the mic if you don't. Snare top, nothing wrong with an SM57. Let's not get clever. It works so good. Let's not overthink this. The one thing on snare top mic position is, you don't need to get it really like up on the head, in my opinion. You get a really weird sound. I kind of like put it over even away from the head a little bit, a couple inches, kind of across the head, and point it away from the hi-hat as much as possible. I think that's going to be a good starting point, but it's always a little different. For me, the main thing is not just kind of just don't get it up crowding the head. It's just going to sound really weird. Get a little distance on it. I'm psyched for this because the drummer has a hole in their head that's like right at the perfect height for my stand. Usually it's down the bottom, and we have to like turn the head, so the hole is actually at a good height for the stand, but this one's perfect. So drummers out there. That's a good height for that hole in that kick drum. This is a walkway right through here, so I'm gonna tweak this stand a little bit so there isn't this boom sticking out, because it's just gonna be, someone's gonna hit it at some point over the weekend. There, that is much better. And for this kind of music, like aggressive hard rock, punk, anything like that, you can get that kick mic way up by the front head, way up by the beater. So I like to set up all the mics on the kit before I even run the first cable. Like to keep the cables nice and tidy. It seems like kind of a pointless thing, but people are walking around here all weekend and they're gonna trip over the cables, and it's just gonna be good for my mental health to have them nice and organized. So the concept here with running the cables is basically you plug in the cable at the mic first, I would say. Then you have the cable kind of coiled down there, and then you just pull out what you need from that coil and run that over to your snake or to your interface. So you're left with a nice clean coil under the mic, under the stand. This is in theory. It's not always this easy, but that's basically what you shoot for, and just keeps everything really clean and organized.
We recorded one of the Bots albums. Chris and I came in early, and Ryan was giving us pointers and stuff, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this sounds really good." And then Ben came in, and he was like questioning what you were saying with his bass tones. He's like, "Oh, I don't know about that." We're like, "Ben, just listen to him. It works." And then, like, sure enough, it sounded awesome in the mix, So we're like, from then on, we're like, whatever Ryan says goes. We just go with it, and it sounds good.
There's always that trust building period.
Yeah.
And back in the day, sometimes some bands would come in and I'd just start running, and I'd be messing around with all their shit and be like, "Oh, oops, I forgot to kind of explain what I'm doing here. They don't know me." And then we get it sounding good, and 10 minutes later, we're all best friends.
Yeah.
Jason, let's start thinking about bass. What are you working with for amps and stuff over here? Is that your area over here?
Yeah, I've got an orange Terror bass, 1x12 orange cab. Thing is a little monster. I usually run 2 cabs when we play live.
I think since we're gonna mic the guitar, we're gonna mic the kind of more ambient, effect-heavy guitar. So I think we'll put the guitar amp in the bedroom, which is has a little more reverb in there. My plan is the bass amp in the bathroom, which is a little smaller and probably a little tighter sound. That's the theory. Probably sound exactly the same flipped, but it's good to have a game plan going into these types of things. The other argument could be maybe you want the bass amp in the bigger room because the bass frequency waves are longer and you're going to catch more of the low end in the bigger room. But I don't know. I think it all comes out in the wash when you're recording an amp in a bedroom or a bathroom. 6 1/2 dozen the other. We'll see how it sounds. We can always change it up later.
Folks at Orange are watching. Sponsorship would be awesome.
If you've recorded a robot dog before, we're no stranger to recording in the shitter. And we'll just throw it here. Kind of gives a little bit of depth to the room to project down. We'll see how it works. Kind of shoots down this little corridor here. And I think it's really beneficial for you guys to have at least some line of sight with each other. So looking back out at this room, once we clear that out, that's a good spot for someone. And then over here is another good spot for someone because they can see Cubby from here, and that's the whole band.
Sure.
So if we can get those places set up, and this is all like ergonomics and line of sight and stuff, if we're all comfortable and we can all like communicate really easily, it's just like gonna make the whole weekend go a lot better.
Yeah.
Tom, you got the big pedal board, so
Yeah, maybe I'll just stay in this area.
you'll sit here-ish, pedal board right here, and Jason, you can be over there, and I think we will have the cabling and stuff
Sit
to
on
do
the
that.
toilet.
Yeah, there's always the toilet. So basically with the concept we're going for is their actual amps. The heads of the amps are in the room where they're playing, so we can tweak them, make adjustments, and the speaker cabs for those amps are out in other rooms, so they're isolated. Mainly so they're isolated from the sound of the drums. So we're going to play everything live, but we're going to get a real tight sound because all the instruments are pretty much going to be isolated. The other advantage of this, if anyone needs to replace a part or fix a mistake, they can simply overdub their part. Like, for example, a bass part can be replaced with no trace of the original bass part remaining in the other instrument mics. Yeah, so Jason has the speak-on to female 1/4 inch. I have super long 1/4 inch cables, so we're really in perfect shape. This is a session ender right here, so I'm glad we have it.
It's an hour drive to a Guitar Center.
Yeah.
You saved the day.
Nope, that's why.
I brought this deluxe to use as a speaker cab, but with that direct out, we might not need it. So it's just a good little amp stand.
I like it.
I don't know. I'm just like all about this setup and ergonomics, and it takes like 2 seconds longer in the setup. This is what you find. Like we will go all out on the setup process. It feels like it's taking forever, but it's only a couple hours. It's done, and then we're ready to rock for the whole rest of the session, whole rest of the weekend. So this is, you go to Home Depot, you get a reel of, I don't know, what, 14 gauge, something like that, speaker wire, put some ends on it, and you have a perfect speaker cable that's lasted me 10 years. Sounds great. So we're using a Shure Beta 52 on the bass cab. Works just fine. I mean, mic's a mic. These actually pick up plenty of high end. I find I don't really need like an SM57 in addition to this. Plenty of lows, plenty of highs. Gets the job done. For these cables, I don't tape anything down. For one thing, we're in someone's house, but also the minute you tape something down, you're gonna want to move it. So, but just like kind of get the kinks out of them and just kind of get them out of the way, let them lay flat. All right, we're really getting there. Let's think about guitar. Tom, why don't you get your pedal board in front of you where you're gonna want it?
Sure.
Yeah, let's get your amps back in this room. Not reinventing the wheel, not overthinking it. SM57 on a guitar cab, kind of an inch away from the speaker, is going to be great. Sound of rock and roll. This is kind of a rare cab. It's great to pair with Fenders because it is an old Fender cab, but it's some weird one from the 70s, and they don't often come like this, but it's an open back cab, so it has really great airy cleans and kind of sounds like an open backed Fender combo, so it's good to pair with Fender combo. So let's make sure neither of these tube amps are running with no speakers hooked up to them, because that will fry them. Jason asked, well, he was warning me that the bass amp was set really dirty and gainy, and he was wondering, do I want to dial it back? And I think the philosophy always for me, it's just like start out like you're used to playing it, like you're used to playing live or like you're used to practicing, and then hear how that records, and then we'll make adjustments from there. I don't want to like wipe anyone's sound out and start from scratch. I want to start like how the band is used to sounding, and then if we have to make some minor tweaks from there, do that. But yeah, so just run it like you bring it.
Awesome.
So we're close to setting up for vocals. We got almost everything hooked up, but I'm sure there will be plenty of confusion as we make sure signal is actually coming in on everything. We set levels, but we're on the last thing, I think, set up the vocal station. We got the drums, guitar, bass, cabs are out in the other rooms. Let's address the vocal situation. So Cubby, are you using that Shure like 55 mic?
I think the 58 this time, maybe.
Okay.
Well, you said you liked canceled on the back end last time, right? The 55. Or you were surprised that it got the.
I mean, a lot of people sometimes want to use the 55 for the look, and I don't say no because it gets the performance, but I would go with a 58 like you have, or I also brought this SM7B, which is like pretty common to use in a situation like this where you want to isolate the vocal Does it sound any different? Does it sound any better? I don't know. This is such a prized, cherished mic. This is the Michael Jackson Thriller mic. This is the mic on every forum you're supposed to run out and get so you can have that one nice mic that's going to change your life. And it looks cool. Howard Stern uses it. But is it the best mic? I don't know. It might make us feel good in this situation. I think it might kind of be a little bit better than an SM58, but I don't know. Which do we use? You tell me.
Michael Jackson versus Elvis is what you're saying? Yeah. No,
let's use this guy. I think that maybe will get us ahead of the game with this isolation process. I think it's a big serious mic that'll work for this recording situation. This is another pro tip, and probably why I bring my own stands. And these are nice stands. This band has good stands, but everywhere I go, stands are always loose. so that's like the first thing I do is just tighten them up a little bit because they're always moving around on you. But I like that this has this weighted base, and we don't have a tripod here in the middle of this doorway. I'm in here, so I'm all about the ergonomics, and that's I think a good choice for in here. This has that foam pop filter built in, but
yeah, I see that.
Doesn't hurt to have an extra one on there for extra looking like we're in the studio.
Right.
Effect. So I haven't used this guy in a long time, but it's a cloud lifter, and these are really good. You run phantom power to it, and it's just like a little preamp for really mics with a pretty low sensitivity like that SM7B. So this is like almost turns it into a condenser. It puts like a little preamp in the signal chain. So we're going to use this. I'm glad I had it in my bag. Haven't used it in a while. Now I'm going to ask these guys to give me a minute while I set up the session in Logic and try to remember where each mic goes. We're using 12 channels, so that's pretty solid. Let's see. This is a pain in the butt, but you gotta go in, you gotta name every track so you know what you're working with, and pretty aggravating process. This is what an assistant is good for, but I'm just gonna go through and do it. Maybe this is obvious, but I think fewer people know it than should. Once you got everything routed and everything is coming in on the right input, and you're recording, 12 tracks or even 8 tracks or even 4 tracks, when you're in Logic, select all those tracks and put them on a group. I have all my groups set up in a template. So the first one is live. So we're recording live. That's set up as a group, and that group is set up with editing and quantized locked audio selected. So as you're recording those tracks, they're all going to be locked together. They're not going to come out of phase. They're not come out of timing, and they'll be just a solid block that you can select, edit, move around, and you don't always need to keep it as that block. As you're mixing, you can take it out of the group and move things around there, but when you're doing your recording session, group those tracks, group all the tracks they're using, or they'll get out of hand really fast. Let's just start out with drums first. And do you guys use ear protection or anything? You'll have headphones in a second. All right, so I'm gonna have Chris just rock on the drums, play a song, and I think this is the easiest way to set levels, is just have him play like he really plays, and I'll get the level set, and we'll go from there. So as he's setting levels, I record it just so it gets loud in here. I'm gonna have him stop, and then I can listen back to what we recorded. Basically with this interface, there's no pads on everything. So basically when you're doing drums, you're not really setting levels so much as just turning everything to 0 and hoping it doesn't clip. That said, I think we're in pretty good shape, but if you do have an interface like that, you can get external pads, and I have one, and I'm gonna throw that on the overhead because it's a phantom power mic, so that one is a little hot. It's not clipping yet, but just to be safe, we'll put an inline pad on that overhead condenser mic, and we'll be golden. So here's that inline pad. It's from Audio Technica. It's got 3 different settings. We'll just put it on, let's just go with -20. It's the middle setting. And just put that somewhere in line with that overhead mic. And we'll just put it at the snake. Do a fill where you get to the floor tom. I'm not sure I got that one in the mix.
Oh, okay.
For whatever reason, the floor tom is the one mic that required a little bit of gain. Don't know why, but that's setting levels for drums on an interface with no pads. Alright, so they're sounding great. Basically, I throw a compressor and a limiter on the output track. Just not doing much, just kind of a little brick wall, so we're not clipping. We're going to use the computer for monitoring out to them. So we just want to keep it a little cleaner if possible. I throw the drums on their own bus, and I just throw an EQ and a compressor on that. The band is not going to hear a lot of drums in their headphone mix because they're right in the room with the drums. They're going to need more guitars, bass, and vocals in their headphones. But we'll want to hear the drums on playback, so we'll get the drums sounding pretty good with just an overall EQ and compressor on the drums. When I did that video, I was comparing a $300 interface to a $7,000 interface. That was before the pandemic. Now it's not so affordable anymore. Now it's a $469 interface versus a, I don't even know, 8 or 9 or 12,000. Who knows what the more expensive interface is. The drum just sounded great. That was the easiest thing in the world.
Usually that's the hardest thing.
Well, you know, at this point in my life, it's like the drums are kind of going to sound like they're going to sound.
Yeah.
And like I said, you could go down that rabbit hole of tuning them all day,
Yeah,
but
it's not worth it.
I mean, they're just going to sound pretty much like they sound.
Yeah. And you've done it a ton of times, so
Yeah.
you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and I don't reinvent the wheel with the process. Someday, when I have this beautiful studio built, I'll invite you guys over there for a week. We'll just hang out and grill every night, all week, and we will record that, you know, our magnum opus where we tune every drum for 36 hours, you know? But not this weekend. Not this weekend. All right, let's get a few more things into the mix. Cubby, actually, could you run and close the bathroom door? Actually, the bedroom door too.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's go move on to the bass. That's kind of next in line. Yeah, fire up your amp and just play a little. I'll see what we got coming in on the DI.
Freak me out not coming out of that speaker. What is going on?
I thought you were just going direct with no amp at all.
Turn the bass amp up a little bit.
You want me to put it on the clean channel? Is it too?
No, it's not even too dirty at all.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it's nice and clean. I was just thinking we'll let the amp breathe a little bit, but then I'm also balancing the fact of it's right there and it's just gonna vibrate through the house and bleed into the other mic. So let's leave it where it's at. Yeah, for now, to start. All right, so since we got the bass coming in on a DI track and an amp track, and then we have the guitar coming in from 2 different amps, I'm just gonna bus those to their own buses so I can control their level on one fader, basically. Just a workflow thing in Logic. Okay, so I am getting a ton of buzz on that direct out on the Mesa, but it's also not on. So let's fire it up and see what happens.
It's not on and buzzing?
Yeah. Okay, so pivot here, not a big deal. I'm kind of anticipating it. We're just gonna throw this Mesa amp, which is a dirty, high gain sound. I think realistically, just running the amp downstairs is not going to be too hard because we're just going to go right down here through the stairwell. We'll put it at the bottom of the stairs. I think that'll be perfect.
Okay.
We won't be able to adjust the settings, but we'll dial it in once. It's just going to be a pretty straightforward overdrive tone. At some point, I made these little stickers when I was doing a lot of these mobile sessions, and this is not, I threw them on a lot of my gear. Maybe this isn't the best way to do it on a guitar, on a mic or guitar cable because it leaves this residue. But I just had a bunch of these printed up. It says property of me and my number and stuff on it, and you got to have something like that when you're doing remote gigs so you know what's yours and you don't end up losing money by losing gear on these gigs. Rather than create kind of a hazard here, just put the amp here.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's not in another room behind a closed door, but in terms of these dynamic microphones, it's going to be perfectly isolated from what's going on up there, just being down here, downstairs, around the corner. This mic will pick up nothing of the drums upstairs, I guarantee. So everyone's asking about bleed between the drums in the room upstairs, vocals, everything like that. And the thing is, there may be a slight amount of bleed, but what you have to think about in a situation like this with a loud rock band is like kind of how loud is that bleed relative to the level of the guitar. If you have a screaming guitar amp, when the guitar is playing, it's going to completely drown out any of the drum bleed that's there. So effectively you have a completely isolated instrument, instrument to instrument. So I'm glad some engineers enjoy the like fort making process around their drums and stuff, but I don't know, it has its place. It's just not for me. It just makes kind of just like a big mess when you want to just kind of have your mental clarity. You don't want to be looking at just a mess in your space, of pillow forts or whatnot. Like I said, it has its place. But I don't know, just for me, I just love the simplicity of you angle one thing, you angle a mic, and you're about as isolated as you need to be. It just really works for me. I don't know, it works for my brain. There's this TikTok construction guy that always starts his TikToks with, "Listen up, Brian," or like, "You better listen, Brian." So down here, we're just gonna keep it simple. I love these Sennheiser mics. Don't really prefer them for their sound or anything. I just think they're so convenient. They don't sound bad, they sound good. It's an expensive mic, but you just plug it in and you hang it over the amp. And sometimes it's a little tricky to get it at the right angle. You can kind of tie a knot around the handle like that. Make sure the logo is sticking out. Easier said than done. There we go. And then you're golden. I just love these simple workflow things. It just, that's what makes a day move ahead, move forward. Tom, that's good.
That amp sounds fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome,
Dude. That's gonna get in the rotation, man. That thing sounds fucking killer.
Yeah, that's a classic amp.
Yeah,
So it's
fucking
really
A.
nice. That sounded good. They're both sounding really good.
Yeah. Do you think that's in there?
So far, so good.
Cool.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. Okay, I think we're to the point where we want to get vocals. Let's just start with you there.
Okay.
Check the mic. Can't really do vocals until we have headphones going, because that's the only way you're going to hear them. No PA going. So here's your.
Yep.
Yours.
You had a way of putting this on the stand so it's accessible but not clinking or so. Oh, okay.
I mean, you're not going to hear any
Look at that.
noise.
Clip. That's the
Yeah,
special.
nice.
That's the trick.
So volume okay, so Jason, you're probably the least familiar with these. Everyone's gonna get these packs, and it's a passive volume control. So you turn your volume up and down here.
Oh, cool.
Definitely let me know if you have any drop in volume or if you're missing
Cuts
one
out.
headphone or you have any cuts out. It's
Cool.
usually it's just you want to just exercise it a little bit and it comes back to life. Oh yeah, and this is the other thing with these headphone packs. It's gonna happen if you're not used to them, but you're gonna get up and you're gonna go to the bathroom or something and
rip
still
the
be
whole-
attached.
Yeah.
Just be prepared for it. I'm not gonna be mad. Everyone does. They've mostly survived. So I use the bottom, the sends, I guess, on the snake. Maybe that's what you'd use to send a signal to monitor amp on a stage or something. I converted the sends to be my headphone lines, so it's all connected in the snake, which is handy. And we're sending stereo signals over XLR, which is totally doable because an XLR is just like a TRS stereo cable, 3 leads, and hook it up to these cheap boxes here, passive volume controls, and hook the XLR in there, and then you just plug your headphones in here. These cables are just some custom cables that I made with this thin, whatever it is, thinner Mogami cable. You don't need those big bulky mic cables for this job. Yeah, I mean, these headphones, I wouldn't recommend them for mixing, but I'm used to them, so I do sometimes. But mainly they're great for tracking. They're these Sennheiser HD25. They might go by a new model name now, but they're just really tough. They have a lot of bass. You can take them all apart and replace components, so they're really good for tracking. And they're sturdy, and they serve me well. Yeah, so Jason asked, are we playing through mistakes? So we'll probably talk about all this more as we actually get into playing, but kind of some philosophies on like the overall game plan of a live session like this. I was talking about it before as we were having a snack. One of the first things, and one thing I like to tell people, is you want to start with your easiest songs first. That's like a big strategy of mine. You start off with your easiest songs, the ones you know by heart. So you get a lot of momentum going in the session. You get a lot of things done early on, because inevitably there will be a difficult song that you get hung up on. Last thing you want to do is start the session with a time trap like that, and then you're all discouraged for the rest of the session. So start with your easiest songs first, get them all banged out, and then later in the day get to the ones that potentially might be more frustrating. Now this band, they've been rehearsing their whole set in the specific order, so it's not necessarily laid out like that. So that's totally fine. It's just like whatever the band is most comfortable with. So Jason was asking, like, do we just keep on powering through if there are minor mistakes and stuff? And I think generally yes. I think overall, in general, you don't really need to worry about minor flub ruining an otherwise great take, because there's a lot of editing we can do. There's a lot of combining of takes and stuff. But one thing you can't edit for is feel, or like having just like a great overall vibe to a take. So if your take is overall sounding strong, and in this case when we're doing the whole band, we're mainly thinking about drums really, because that's the one thing you can't really replace with an overdub. Right now everything is more or less isolated, so if we get a great drum track, we can replace a little bit of bass, a little bit of guitar, certainly vocals, stuff like that. So we're really focusing on what's the best drum take we can get. And at the same time, we want like a full take beginning to end, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. We don't need to like kill ourselves to get that one perfect take all the way through. We just want the song to, each take of the song, the best take of the song, to feel good, have a good energy to it, and have like a good solid consistent drum track, because that's the one thing that you can't really replicate by copy and pasting or whatever. I think if there's like a major fuck up, or you're like really hating how a take is going, just call it, cut it, just stop. We'll start it over. But otherwise, try to power through. It's good to get go through an entire song. You don't want to get like hung up on one part, so you're only playing like half a song over and over and over, and then you finally get to the rest of the song, and so as much as possible, just do nice full takes. And it's usually not going to be the first take. Maybe it will be. But it's usually going to be like 2 or 3 takes in, we're feeling good about it. Also, sometimes a band needs to play a song, and they need to hear a little bit of playback to kind of hear what is and isn't working and what they might want to tweak. But all that said, that's just kind of like my overall philosophy. But we start the session, and you just got to adjust, and anything goes, and just trying to get through the day and have a good time doing it. So I try to stay totally flexible with the process. The pressure really is on the drummer. And
that's why I don't play drums anymore.
Yeah. So no matter how you slice it, it's going to be a little stressful that first day for the drummer. It is kind of on them to get it. But that said, you can do so much with take half of the song from this take, the other half of the song from this take. So it'd be a really mistake to just like put your head down and think, Gotta be perfect, gotta be perfect. I screwed up once. Okay, it's over. Because the whole point is just to have kind of a loose and natural feel throughout. And if you're just preoccupied on those minor mistakes, you'll never get that. And with the editing ability that we have, there's no reason to really be hung up on those details. Just focus on the overall feel and the energy of the track. I think let's just all get comfortable with the headphone mix and make sure we can all play, because I'll need to do some adjustments of what you're getting in your ears. Now, for better or for worse, everyone has the same headphone mix, and that's just how it is with the setup. And 95% of the time we can make that work for everyone. So yeah, let's just start jamming on one of the songs, and then I'll maybe cut you off and we'll just check in on everyone's headphone level, make sure they're able to play and sing and everything. All right, let's warm up on a tune and see if our levels are acceptable. Y'all ready? It's sounding really good. Are you guys able to hear yourselves?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, it sounded awesome. Just wanted you guys to, save it for a take.
I feel like I'm one with the drums.
Let me just actually listen to the playback. I want to check out the bleed on the vocal mic. Yeah, and just as I hoped, or I knew, everything's like really well isolated, the instruments anyway. Checking out the vocals. All right, the drums are pretty loud in the vocal mic. I mean, it wouldn't ruin the session, but let's just experiment with positioning. Let's get Cubby kind of
More in there?
Yeah, just right behind the threshold.
Yep.
Just because I do think it's good to have a little bit of line of sight with these guys. Although Chris doesn't look up at all, so there's that. So maybe it's not as necessary. But I don't know. Can you see Tom from there?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's try that then. All right, I mean, it sounds good. There's definitely getting a great room sound of the drums in the vocal mic. So I mean, it is what it is. It's something you work with, but I guess let's at least just keep on tweaking it while we're starting out our setup for the session. Let's just bring it back, and just for shits and giggles, let's close the door.
They went and took the blueprint, digitized from the DNA. No predictions of consequences. Oh no. Won't let you ooze inside to crack my code.
Like happens so many times with like a situation like this, is you're just looking for the best possible outcome. Everything is like a little bit of a compromise. We don't have a perfectly isolated, perfectly soundproof, perfectly acoustically treated space or set of spaces. So we have to figure out what's the best option here and how best to work with that. So with the door closed, we get some good isolation. It's like pretty solid. So we gotta balance different factors. Like, how is that to play like in a closed room away from the band? I mean, how's that to sing? And how does it work for all you guys? Like, how do you feel about?
I can do it if there's more. I think I can do it if there's more drum through the actual.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that's disorienting at this point.
We definitely put the drums in the mix. The other factor is that in there's just a lot of reflection in the room. So so we need to we need to like possibly hang something on the walls in there.
Yeah. These are.
Like,
About that much?
well, not if we can get this wrapped around, like the window, like if we get it like about there, that'd be amazing. That's kind of how I used to have our vocal booth set up. I used to hang like a U-shaped curtain like that from the drop ceiling. So I know that works well. We'll see how it works out. I'll do another take. Everything sounds amazing. I'm satisfied with it. Like I said, everything you're doing is just like pushing and pulling in little ways to make it a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, in some ways you're kind of stuck with what you have. I mean, there's only so much you can do with mics. But that said, you can do a lot just like moving mics around a little bit. I don't think it's really a big problem, but I'm hearing some guitar strumming in the drum tracks, and could be just because the drums are boosted so much. But if you have something like that, if you have bleed issues, just see what you can do just by kind of changing the angle or position of mics. Right now, this condenser mic is sort of pointed at the guitar. It's not pointed at the guitar. Well, we can pick up the same amount of drums if we just rotate this around and point it away from the guitar. So that's just gonna set us up for success. I don't know if it's gonna solve the problem, but it's just gonna maybe stack the odds in our favor a little bit that we're getting less guitar in this overhead mic. So it's worth a shot, and then we just go with it.
I feel it in my bones.
Eventually the brown note's going to take over.
So it's a little tricky because one of the things I'm trying to achieve with this overhead in this particular configuration is to get a little bit of the ride cymbal. So still trying to aim it at the ride, but it's approximately in the same location it was really. So, but it's pointed away from the guitar, so will work well. Another thing to know is don't have any monitor speakers set up for this session. Sometimes when I camp out with a band at their place, I will definitely bring monitor speakers and bring a subwoofer and everything. But in this case, I'm only going to be here 2 days. I can be pretty sure I'm getting what I need off the headphones, and it's just like there's enough stuff to bring already. I left the monitor speakers at home. Another housekeeping thing I do is as we're going, I ask the band the name of the song and I put a marker in on the Logic project file as to, where which song is. I don't kind of hope I remember. So that's that. I hardly consider myself a producer in this situation. How can you really produce anything, doing 10 or 12 songs in a weekend? But I am kind of like the impartial third party who can kind of keep an ear on how the takes are going, and I can just say, hey, let's do that one more time, or no, we're good, that's the one. So yeah, I think you guys are super warmed up on this. I think just once or twice more, and you'll nail it.
I had a headphone cord situation.
I
I turned my head and it was like in front of me. I'm like,
all right, is everyone ready?
Yep.
All right, it's rolling whenever you're ready.
You've been bit with new strings. You didn't know it, now you're gonna behave to exist as a calculated number of days. They went and took the blueprint.
Yeah, that was the take. Let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah. If anything, we'll come back to it. But I feel like I can work with that because if like the drums were pretty solid, and it's pretty much just like those little bass and guitar solo areas could be cleaned up, but they're just like you play the same riff like the next 4 bars later. So I just grab that and kind of throw it in that spot. So. Yeah, so let's not belabor it. Let's move on to the next song. Nice. All right, that was sounding great too. What's the consensus on that?
I thought that was fucking really good.
All right, so we want to replace just a little bit of bass there, and I think it's best if we just take care of it now so we don't forget it. Let me kind of set that up on the computer so you can punch that in. So the bass is pretty well isolated, so there's a couple goofs on the bass that last take. So he's just going to go ahead and record a whole new bass take for the song. Should be able to play to the drums and should go great. So we need to get feedback on one song, and with the amps isolated in the other rooms, we're not going to get that. So Tom's going to stretch his cord out into the other room, and hopefully we'll get some feedback going for the next song. Oh yeah. Behind the scenes action here. This room is smaller than it looks.
It seems as though truth has been hidden away. A fact that some may say. Our morals lay bare in the sun and the rain, and yet we feel no shame.
Thanks so much for coming along on this project with me. I would definitely say if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. I'm hoping to make a lot more content like this. I'm getting back into it, and it's really encouraging seeing all the new people signing up and all the comments and everything. So I hope to see you again very soon. Cheers.